All right. Quick trade recap for this day. Um, I took two trades, one win, one loss, and I want to get into that. Um, so going into this day, I I'm bearish going into this day. So I recognize that the bigger time frames are very obviously in this buy model. It's a very clear market maker buy model with sell side of the curve, rejection off of a key level being these higher time frame fair value gap, and then also equilibrium of this price leg here. So we were rejecting off a key level with bullish draws on liquidity higher, and the market's just trading higher, and we're opening up bullish fair value gaps and respecting them, as you can see here, and here, and here. This can work, and then we are disrespecting bearish fair value gaps, as in this one here, and this one here. So I am obviously bullish going into the day, bullish overall, but going into this particular day, I am bearish because I want to see a rebalance. So basically, from market open on the previous day, since then we've just had a massive expansion higher. We've left this 4-hour fair value gap here that was untapped going into market open. This was an untapped fair value gap, and ES had actually already tapped the 4-hour going into this day, but we had a bearish 1-hour that here that ES hadn't tapped and still has not tapped. So I was still bearish despite us having um, despite ES having already tapped the 4-hour. I still wanted to see a rebalance and then a continuation higher on the bigger time frame. So at market open, where exactly? I think it's like right here, yeah. Right here, market opens. And directly at market open, we are, hang on, this is bright. So directly at market open, we are trying to hold this 15-minute bearish right here. And then around here is where I took my first loss. So at the time, this SMT obviously wasn't there yet, but we did have an SMT with this internal high right here. So NQ took out this high, ES did not. So this was an SMT, and then you can see that right here. This was the high from ES, and NQ took out this high. So we had this little internal bearish SMT, and because of that, basically the way I was viewing this is market opens, we sell off a little bit, but we leave sell side intact. So we're generating sell side liquidity. Then what happens? We get a move higher. I'm viewing this move as manipulation, and what does this move do? It opens up this 2-minute bullish fair value gap. So essentially I'm looking at this to get ran through to the downside and get inverted for me to look to take a short. So the bullish fair value gap here gets inversed here. And then on the 32nd is where I took my entry. It's a great setup, honestly. Like I'm 100% fine taking this loss. I think it was a very good setup, but pretty much bigger time frame. We were still the 15-minute was still holding this 15-minute gap right here that I have marked, and then we get this 2-minute inverse for value gap as well as this nice 30-second inverse and this clear displacement to the downside. Now I slap my entry right here, and I can bring up executions. So I took my entry here, and my stop was sell side. I was going to go break even at the low that was put in for market open, and I just wanted to see these gaps hold. I wanted to see this inverse hold, and I wanted this here to be turtle soup. I wanted to just see a quick, let me see if this was made. Yeah, it was. So at the moment, this high here had been taken on NQ, but not on ES. So we had internal manipulation here with an internal SMT, and then I just wanted to see this dump here. Obviously, this ended up getting stopped out. Now, when this gets stopped out, I'm still bearish, but I am also at the same time open to the possibility. How do I take this off? Open to the possibility of longs, and the reason is, like I said, bigger time frame is extremely bullish, like we discussed, and at the same time, remember, before this move happened on NQ, ES had already tapped the 4-hour, so ES was already working out of a higher time frame bullish key level. And since this trade got stopped here, this first setup got stopped, and it looked like we were just going to start displacing higher. I was open to the possibility of longs towards some of these highs over here, which you can't even see on the 15-minute apparently, towards all of these internal highs here, and then maybe even the external draw. But the condition for me to take it long would be two things. First, I would need a 5-minute fair value gap to open up. Then we would need to trade into it and respect it. Now, we did get the 5-minute fair value gap to open up bullish, and then we started to trade into it. Now, the only way that I take along here is I need to see the highest time frame for value gap on this price leg here get ran through. So the highest time frame bearish for value gap needs to get closed above on whatever time frame it is for me to take a long. And then if you were to take a long, you would go break even at the internal high, and then your TP would be all of these highs over here on the bigger time frame. However, we do trade into the 5-minute, but we don't get the inverse for value gap. So as you can see, the 3-minute is the highest time frame for value gap on this price leg. So this is what I was looking at to get ran to the upside to take a long. So if this candle here, this purple one would have closed like say here, something like that, then I would have taken a long, stop at the low, break even at the internal high, targeting the external draws on liquidity. But obviously, this ended up holding bearish. Market sells off heavy, which is now confirming that my initial bias, which was bearish, is correct. So once that happens, this is kind of just intuition here. I see this big sell off here, and at this point, like as soon as this happens, I'm still not fully confident that we're bearish because I'm pretty sure, but I'm not like 100% confident. But as soon as we just continue lower like this, I'm like, yeah, we're definitely going lower. So I had a suspicion that this would become a breakaway, and it did. So I actually entered my initial position here. So, or my second position, I entered there. Because like I said, I kind of just knew this was going to be a breakaway. Because like, this is kind of one of those experience things I was talking about. Like the reason I just know is because since the overall model looked so good for shorts, and I was kind of surprised. I was actually very surprised that I got stopped out right here. And then I was like, okay, maybe we go long here. But as soon as this happens and we just completely run through this 5-minute and we respect this 3-minute bearish, well, now I'm just like, yeah, well, obviously we're selling off, which is what I was already thinking. So like, that's kind of what I mean when I said like I just knew this was going to go, which is why at this point I had a feeling that since like we've already done everything we needed to do, because keep in mind, once we got this move here that stopped me out, we actually took out the London high here and then put in another SMT because ES was nowhere near London high. As you can see, this was a high on ES. This is London high. Not even close. So when we put in this bearish SMT and then we run through the 5-minute and respect the 3-minute, I'm like, yeah, we're 100% dumping. Which is why at this point I was like, we're so bearish at this point that we're probably not even going to come back here. So I literally just slapped shorts, had my stop at this internal high, and the market ran. Now I only took one contract on this because I didn't want to like say enter 4 cons and then immediately get a rebalance all the way up here because now you're already going to be down a ton. But I was like, if this becomes a breakaway here and we just sell off, I'm still catching the move, but I'm only going to enter with 1 con in case we do end up coming up, maybe sweeping an internal high and then selling off. Then I'll be able to add more position sizing. But I know I'm so confident that this is going to sell whether it be now or after a rebalance. So just to be sure I catch the move, I still take a con here, which is what I did. And then I went break even at sell side because this is the completion. This low getting taken completes this internal market maker sell model. And then I took the rest off at this 4 hour that had been untapped, that was untapped. Now I do absolutely think this can still move lower. But I just kind of took it off just to be safe. But I think the ES will go to this 1 hour here. So I think this will still move lower just a little bit. And I am curious to see if it does, but I could definitely see like maybe this internal low here getting targeted on NQ, but let's just see what the market wants to do. So yeah, we kind of end up chopping around, but we do end up taking this internal low. And like I said, what did I want to see? I wanted to see ES come to the 1 hour. And that's exactly what happened. ES also came to OTE of this price. Like now, from this point on, I would be bullish again because remember, like I said, the bigger time frame is extremely bullish. But like I recognize that this is bullish and this is a very clear market maker buy model. But you have to like trade with the trend or whatever they say. That's true, but you have to know when to not. Like I can't just automatically be bullish because we're in a bigger time frame. I'm trading the bigger time frame model, but against the bigger time frame draw on liquidity because I understand how these models work. We're not just going to go from here and expand all the way to the external draw on liquidity before having some sort of rebalance. Now, what is a circulation of the market moving? It's internal liquidity to external liquidity. So at this point, we're at external because we market trades higher. We leave a high. We are outside of the range. Now, what do we need to do? We need to have a move towards internal liquidity before getting the continuation on the bigger time frame towards external. So the internal liquidity is a fair value gap, and a fair value gap is just a high or a low. A high or a low is a fair value gap, basically, on a when referring to imbalances on bigger time frames. So like this is not just a 4 hour fair value gap; it's also this low. Like this low is what makes the 4 hour fair value gap. So remember, why does market move? Hunt liquidity, generate liquidity, rebalance to fair value gaps, and rebalance to equilibrium. So there's reason for this move to happen here. But yeah, nice trade today.